Hi, I'm Gail Sokol, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about the science of sourdoughs, part 2 of the series.
Welcome to Baking Radio. Learn the art and science of baking with author, educator, and award-winning chef, Gail Sokol. Whether you've been baking your whole life or you're brand new to the world of baking and you're looking to build your confidence and learn new skills in the kitchen, you're in the right place. This is Baking Radio.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about the science of sourdoughs, which is part 2 of my series. On the first part of my series on sourdough, I discuss fermentation, or the reaction that happens when yeast eats sugar, and those two glorious byproducts form carbon dioxide gas bubbles and alcohol. And then we also discuss preferments, and the two types, sponges, which are very short-lived, and sourdoughs, which you can keep for years and years. Now, today we're going to focus on sourdoughs and the science behind them. So if you recall, I said that sourdough starters can survive for years if taken care of properly. They can also produce the most fabulous bread you have ever tasted. So what makes sourdough starters so different from other preferments? What's the catch? What's the big deal? Bacteria. Bacteria is involved, and it's a good thing. It's in a good way. It's in a great way. There are a couple of species of bacteria that thrive in sourdoughs. One is lactobacillus, and the other is known as acetobacillus. And these bacteria are good. They're not going to make you sick. These bacteria thrive in the sourdough environment because the specific type of yeast used in a sourdough starter, they don't share the exact same food as the bacteria, so that there's enough for both yeast and bacteria to thrive. And this type of working relationship, so to speak, is known as symbiosis, where they're living together nicely side by side, no one's bothering the other, and they're giving off their byproducts freely. As any sugars undergo fermentation by the yeast, the bacteria in the starter also undergo this slight, different kind of fermentation, and they give off lactic and acetic acids. And these mild acids, these are the ones that give sourdough their pleasant sour tang, that flavor, that little zippity-doo-dah that we love in sourdough. In straight doughs that just use commercial yeast, and that's yeast that you would buy in a store, and they have no preferment, bacteria aren't going to make it. They're not going to thrive like they would in a sourdough environment. This is because the commercial yeast undergoing fermentation, they're going to completely consume all the sugar. They eat it all. They take it all. And there's nothing left for any bacteria to survive on. So bacteria die off. That's one reason, among others, why breads made with straight doughs, although they taste good, they're not as complex as sourdoughs with flavor as they would be had there been those byproducts from the bacteria. In starters made with wild or natural yeast, remember, this is a different species of yeast than commercial yeast grown in a lab. Not all the available sugars will be eaten by the wild yeast, and there'll be some left over. So who's going to pick that up? Natural bacteria. And they're going to eat that, survive, and thrive. So there you have that wonderful, nice working relationship, that symbiotic relationship, sort of a fairy tale romance. Since sourdough starters can be made with commercial yeast or naturally occurring wild yeast, which one's better? Well, I personally am a believer in wild or natural yeast sourdough starters. Although you can create a sourdough starter with just enough commercial yeast to get it started, I really love that natural aspect to the wild yeast. It just seems so organic to me. I sound like Mother Earth, don't I? All right, move on. It is important to note, wild yeast can thrive in cooler temperatures than commercial yeast. This is a good thing. And they can ferment at a slower rate without being overproofed. This low and slow fermentation rate also adds up to big flavor in the final sourdough bread. There is a caveat with trying to make a natural or wild sourdough starter. Just one itsy bitsy teeny weeny little hiccup. You have to be able to conjure the yeast, right? I mean, where is this miraculous wild yeast? Where is it? Where is it? Well, the answer is simple. It's everywhere. And it depends on where you live as well. I find that the kitchens where a great deal of baking and or cooking are going on have the best chance of supporting a wild or natural sourdough starter. This is because wild yeast love places like that. Love them. I had such great luck making my 3 wild sourdough starters that I thought maybe yeast loved my kitchen so much it was a statement of how clean I was or how unclean I was. I don't know. Was I offended? Well, no, not really, because I made great bread. I mean, if it means great award-winning bread, bring it on. It's okay. I have also seen many recipes for natural sourdough starters that begin the starter with a pinch, just a pinch, of commercial yeast. Now, why would you do this? And then call the starter natural? Well, the thought goes something like this. As you feed your starter over days, the wild yeast will eventually overtake the commercial yeast, and eventually the entire starter is wild. It's also a kind of insurance to make sure that you will be successful. So I know a well-known chef who put a disclaimer on his sourdough recipe stating that this recipe is not guaranteed to work because everyone's kitchen is in a different climate, in a different part of the world, and you're going to have a different yeast because yeast will only grow in specific places. So I took a leap of faith and I just did that, au naturel, so to speak. I just did not even add any commercial yeast. I just went wild right from the start. And there are 2 ways to do this, and I've done both ways. So, number 1, you want to add a source of natural yeast like a fruit. Grapes, for instance. Remember, most fruit and vegetables in the garden or on the farm have natural yeast already on them. Just be sure they're organic and you don't wash them or you'll wash the yeast off. Grapes work really well. The second way to ensure wild yeast will come is to use something that will attract them. I have seen recipes that use something like pineapple juice or a sweet fruit juice, and it's a source of sugar, and that attracts yeast. I did something a little different. I boiled a potato, just a regular potato, and I used the water that I boiled as a lure, as an attractant for wild yeast. And you know what? It worked. My potato starter is now 20 years old and going strong. Her name is Yeastinator. So since the starches in the potato water are really long chains of sugar, the yeast had no problem gobbling that up. So how do natural sourdough starters fend off bad bacteria? The acids being produced inhibit any mold or bad bacteria from actually taking hold. Also, you should know that a well-maintained natural starter is very hardy, and it's even said to contain small amounts of antibacterial qualities and can survive for years and years. I mean, I wouldn't take it for an ear infection or anything, but I thought that was very cool. If you mess up your starter, sometimes you can bring it back. So it's sort of a cool thing. Why do natural sourdough breads taste so much better than straight doughs without a starter? As I stated earlier in this show, wild yeast can thrive at a cooler temperature, and because of these cooler temperatures, the rate of fermentation slows right down, allowing flavorful organic compounds to develop slowly, which result in an incredibly complex loaf of bread with a great chew, a gorgeous crust. Picture that young wine, just bottled, and another aged before it's drunk. Which one would you rather have, right? Another point to talk about is that wild yeast on the East Coast of the U.S. has a different flavor than wild yeast, say, in San Francisco, on the West Coast of the U.S., or in any part of the world. If you have ever been to the West Coast and specifically to San Francisco, they have a yeast named after them. It's so popular. The sourdough in San Francisco, if I was blindfolded and I was tasting many sourdoughs, I could pick out the San Francisco sourdough because it tastes different than any other sourdough I've ever had. There are different species of yeast in different parts of the world, and they all make wonderful but different tasting breads. But that's the wonder of it. That's what's so great about it. That's the science of sourdoughs. On my next show, I'm going to show you how to create your own natural sourdough starter, which is part 3 of the series. Thank you for listening. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my website, chefgailsokol.com.